All right, let's cut the crap. Pick up your phone, look at your laptop, think about the car that you drive right now. The servers running the cloud, the entire global economy, all of it. Every last bit of our modern world is balanced on a knife's edge. And that knife's edge is in an island smaller than half the size of Scotland, sitting about 100 miles off the coast of a superpower that is ideologically committed to swallowing it whole. Everyone in power knows this. They talk about it in hushed tones in DC, Brussels, and Tokyo. They have a cute name for it. They call it the Silicon Shield, a brilliant piece of strategic branding. The idea is that Taiwan's utter dominance, making the world's most advanced computer chips, makes it too important to fail. An attack on Taiwan would be an attack on Apple, Nvidia, on the entire global economy. It's supposed to be a deterrent, mutually assured economic destruction. It's a comforting story. It is also a complete and utter lie. The shield is not a shield anymore. It is a target, and the world is in a quiet, blind panic about what happens when it shatters. So let's get real about the numbers, because the numbers are insane. They are so far beyond a normal market advantage that they defy belief. When we talk about advanced semiconductors, the tiny, impossibly complex brains that power everything from your iPhone AI data center to a hypersonic missile, we're not talking about a diverse global market. We're talking about a monopoly. One company, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, also known as TSMC, makes over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. Let me say that again, 90%. If you look at the entire contract chip making market, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company shares just hit over 70%. Their closest competitor, Samsung, is a distant, pathetic speck in the rearview mirror at around 7%. This is not a market lead, it is a stranglehold. Apple, Nvidia, Qualcomm, AMD, all the giants you have heard of, they do not make their own chips. They are fabless design houses. A fab is what is used in order to make these chips. They house like bus-sized lasers. It costs like over $5 billion to build, and it takes like 6 years to like start running. And they come up with the brilliant blueprints. That's what like Apple and Nvidia does, and Qualcomm and AMD. They come up with these blueprints, and then they go cap in hand to TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, to actually produce them. And this is not just about volume; it is about a technological lead that no one else can touch. This whole system is built on a second, even more fragile monopoly, a single Dutch company called ASML. They're the only company on earth that can build the machines required for extreme ultraviolet or EUV lithography. They're the only company on earth that can build that. These are the machines that etch the impossibly small circuits onto silicon. Each one costs over $200 million, weighs 180 tons, and requires three Boeing 747s to transport. Without ASML's machines, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company fabs are just very expensive buildings. For decades, this hyper specialization was the genius of globalization. The US designs, the Netherlands builds the magic machine, and Taiwan, with its incredible engineering talent and work ethic, does the impossibly precise manufacturing. This created the silicon shield theory. The logic was simple. China needs the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company's chips just as much as the West does. In 2023, over half of Taiwan's semiconductor exports were to China. So Beijing would never be crazy enough to blow up its own supply chain, right? The economic fallout would be catastrophic for everyone. An invasion or even just a blockade would cost the global economy an estimated $10 trillion. That is more than the Ukraine war and the COVID pandemic combined. So we are all safe, is the common thought. The shield holds, except it actually does not. The world has changed. The shield is cracking, and every government on the planet is scrambling because they know it. First, the shield theory makes a fatal assumption that cold, hard economic rationality is the only thing driving Beijing. It completely ignores nationalism, political ambition, and Xi Jinping's personal legacy. China is pursuing what has been called an anaconda strategy, a slow, relentless squeeze designed to make Taiwan give up without firing a shot. They are flying jets into Taiwan's airspace, running naval drills, launching cyber attacks, and using disinformation to wear down the island's will to resist. They are not trying to smash the shield, they are trying to slither around it. Second, the shield itself is becoming a massive vulnerability. Taiwan is an island. It is 90% dependent on imports for its energy. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company alone consumes 7% of the country's entire electricity supply, and that is projected to hit 12% by 2030. A blockade does not need to sink a single ship. It just needs to stop a few LNG tankers from docking and the lights at the world's most important factories start to go out. On top of that, chip manufacturing is ridiculously water intensive, and Taiwan is facing severe water shortages due to climate change. And the most critical resource of all, the human talent, is under attack. China is actively poaching Taiwan's top engineers with massive pay packages and benefits, trying to hollow out the island's expertise from the inside. Taiwan itself is facing a demographic crunch, with a declining pool of young talent going into the grueling field of semiconductor engineering. The shield is rusting from the inside out, and this is where the story gets really interesting. Because while the politicians are giving speeches about strategic ambiguity, their actions scream pure, unadulterated fear. Look at the CHIPS and Science Act in the United States. They are throwing over $52 billion in subsidies to get companies like Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company and Intel to build factories, fabs, on US soil. The European Union has its own 43 billion euro European Chips Act with the explicit goal of doubling their global market share to 20% by 2030. Japan, once the king of semiconductors in the 80s, is pumping billions into a national effort to get back in the game, funding projects like Rapidus to build next generation chips. This is not a friendly competition. This is a desperate multi-hundred billion-dollar global effort to de-risk from Taiwan. It is a full-blown wave of techno-nationalism. Every major power has looked at the situation and realized their entire national security and economic future depends on one single vulnerable island. But here is a dirty secret. It is not working. Or at least it is not working fast enough. Building a leading edge fab costs upwards of $20 billion and takes years. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company's flagship project in Arizona is already facing massive delays, pushed from 2024 to 2025 because they cannot find enough skilled workers to install the hyper advanced equipment. They have had to fly in technicians from Taiwan just to get the job done. And even when these new fabs come online, they will not be the best. Taiwan's government has a policy that essentially mandates that the most cutting edge research, the next generation of chip making, stays on the island. So the new fabs in Arizona and Japan will be making great chips, but they will always be one step behind what is happening in Taiwan. The dependency is not going away. Even with a 200% increase in US fab capacity, projections show that by 2032, Taiwan will still be the critical source for the most advanced chips. This leads us to the most terrifying part of the equation, the silicon trap. The very thing that was supposed to protect Taiwan might now be the thing that invites an attack. From Beijing's perspective, there is a window of opportunity that is closing. Right now, the United States military and the entire United States artificial intelligence industry are critically dependent on on chips made in Taiwan. If China were to invade or blockade the island, it would be catastrophic for them, but it would be an absolute body blow to America's technological and military superiority. It would level the playing field in the artificial intelligence race overnight. But in 5 or 10 years, when the CHIPS Act has borne fruit and the United States has a more resilient domestic supply, that strategic advantage for China disappears. So if you are a military planner in Beijing, the cold, brutal logic might be to act now while the West's dependency is at its absolute peak. The shield has become a target. The Rand Corporation, these are the guys the Pentagon pays to think about how the world ends. Ran a war game on this exact scenario. And their conclusion? If China makes a move on Taiwan, there are no good short-term options for the United States. Any attempt to intervene would cause broad and lengthy economic turbulence that would be politically unstable. Read between the lines, okay? The global economy would collapse. We are not talking about a recession. We are talking about a world where you cannot buy a new car. You cannot buy a new car without the chips from Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. You cannot. You cannot buy a new phone or a new computer. A world where the cloud stops growing, where the artificial intelligence revolution grinds to a halt because there are no more chips to train the models on. The Rhodium Group estimates that companies in the electronics, auto, computing sectors could lose a combined $1.6 trillion in revenue annually. The total hit to the global economy at least $10 trillion. This is why there are whispers of a scorched earth policy. Reports have surfaced that ASML, the Dutch company that makes the EUV machines, has a remote kill switch. In the event of an invasion, they could remotely disable every single one of the hyper advanced machines inside Taiwan, ensuring that China captures nothing but billions of dollars worth of useless, high tech paperweights. It is a broken pod strategy. If we cannot have it, nobody can. So do not let anyone sell you the comforting myth of the silicon shield. The reality is far messier. We are living in a world held hostage by a single point of failure, a world where the entire digital and AI-powered future is being built on a geopolitical fault line. The global scramble to build new fabs is not a sign of strength, it is a sign of desperation. The shield is not a deterrent, it is the bullseye, and the clock is ticking. So, I hope you all enjoyed my rant this morning about what I think about Taiwan's Silicon Shield and what it means for Beijing and the United States. And so I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on that. And I hope you can like and subscribe. And definitely leave a comment though. Like I like the comments. So like I can read it and think about the ideas that everybody's sharing. So, yeah, like and subscribe and leave a message, and I'll see you on the next one.